How's it going, guys? And welcome to your Smackdown review. Hope everyone had a happy Thanksgiving. Um, but this Smackdown, I repeatedly was checking the time throughout this whole thing because for some reason this felt like this was more than 2 hours. Like I really just was interested in seeing the battle royal, and outside of that, there wasn't really a lot else to speak of. I mean, that was the main point of the show. There was like another small little part that we'll get to in a minute, but man, this SmackDown, it dragged something fierce. We started off with Kayla Braxton in the middle of the ring, and to me, this is like the weirdest way you could start off a show with probably like the least over person, the interviewer that like no one cares about. They've had several little cutesy segments with her scaring the living daylights out of Paul Heyman, but aside from that, it's like, does anyone really care about this girl? That we could start off a show with her being in the center of the ring, and this hook right here, it didn't really get me. We've got Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman coming out. Kayla was talking about the Brock Lesnar rumors. Heyman started, dressing her down, saying that we don't do rumors here on the island of relevancy. When you come back with facts, and he said you better get the facts, and kind of just like him, just berating her. Whatever. Am I supposed? I get the feeling I'm supposed to be sympathetic towards Kayla here, but I couldn't care any less if I tried. I kind of get the feeling like it was supposed to be like, oh, he's like mansplaining to her, something like that. I kind of got those vibes there, and was supposed to be like, oh, poor Kayla, Paul Heyman's so mean, but of course, Heyman's over the top, and it like went also completely off the rails. Like Heyman is just going on and on. I think she gets the picture, Paul. She has to come back with the facts, and he's going on and basically saying the same thing in different ways. Come to think of it, that's how most promos are. And then we give the microphone to Roman Reigns, and this is a great promo. It really shows that like how Roman really knows what how to manipulate that mic, and we kind of think back to the way how he used to be, and it was just a very generic style. But then I kind of thought about, I'm like, what did Roman Reigns just say in that promo? Was there anything in that promo that like looked to the future, that set a goal for the character, or or really related to anything? He's beaten everybody. There's no one else to beat. He says, I might not be around much longer, kind of hinting at the Hollywood thing. Some absolute total dipshits actually believe that he was talking about AEW. Like, AEW is probably like the last thing on Roman Reigns' mind. This is kind of like, I've seen, this is the same crowd of people that actually thought someone like Brock Lesnar would go to AEW. You really think that someone like Brock Lesnar, who doesn't give a shit about these markish fans or anything, would step foot in AEW? That's why I didn't really pay that rumor much mind when it was going around. You didn't hear me talk about it much, but I will hear a little bit because that's it's relevant here. It's the island of relevancy. But yeah, that's definitely not going to happen anytime soon or ever. He's talking about Hollywood. I think it's quite obvious, people. Um, Anyway, we go on to the next segment, and it's a match. We've got Jeff Hardy and Drew McIntyre defeating Happy Corbin and Riddick Moss, and this was an okay match. I mean, they kept a decent energy throughout. Nothing mind blowing or anything like that. We were in North Carolina. Drew McIntyre tags in Jeff so he could get the Swanton in. And, Jeff was really way over here. And I was kind of surprised. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is his hometown and he didn't get jobbed out? Surprising. And I'm not like one of those people that says that we got to constantly have the the hometown guy always win the matches. That's a thing that everybody always says. It's a way of getting heat, but sometimes I do believe like it goes a little bit overboard. The person doesn't always have to lose in their hometown constantly, especially when this was more of a hometown reaction than you'll normally hear for anyone else. Like, Jeff Hardy is super over. He's even over when it's not North Carolina. It's quite clear. But we'd see later on why he got the win here. Paul Heyman and Braxton are backstage, and Heyman is still not done yet. Giving it to her, saying, I hear, I'm going to see to it that you get fired if you don't come back with the facts. It's really kind of funny that, we're actually holding wrestling journalists like the fake ones here on the show responsible more than the actual wrestling journalists like Dave Meltzer for putting bullshit out there. Maybe we should have Paul Heyman go out there and confront even the mainstream media. Maybe we should have Paul Heyman confront CNN even, because, it seems like he does a good job of, just constantly over and over just telling them what a miserable job they're doing. But like I'm still saying, I'm not going to be sympathetic because they haven't done anything with Kayla to really, make me feel bad for her. She's just a generic interviewer. She's definitely hot. I will admit that. But man, I'm not going to start weeping, saying, "Oh my God, I hope that Kayla does better here." That's just not gonna be a realistic reaction unless you're just some goofball watching this. We've got Cesaro defeating Ridge Holland in a debut match. I couldn't help but notice something here. I don't know when they wrestled each other. I didn't really notice this before. But does anyone notice that with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, their theme is so similar? It's bagpipes. Now, here's something interesting. When Jim Johnston did the music, and, I know we're talking about someone in a league of their own versus CFO and Def Rebel, who's the current composers for the WWE. You notice that you didn't hear a single bagpipe in Broken Dreams for Drew McIntyre, or a single fucking bagpipe in Sheamus's Written in My Face. That, you didn't have, just because they're Scottish doesn't mean there has to be bagpipes up the wazoo. And their themes sound the same exact way, that same, and not that they're bad themes. I do like Drew's more, admittedly, and they're just basically droning, bagpipe loops, when you think about it, with just, little rock elements to them. And I know they're atmospheric. They are decent themes, but I don't know. I'm just saying it's it's a little annoying how these guys composed this music. And these are older themes. These are CFO themes, and CFO is already long gone. But I just couldn't help but notice. But here we are, Ridge Holland. This guy, I like the way how he looks. The guy is really built fucking wide. This guy is like a brick wall. And here he is losing to Cesaro. And the ship has already sailed on Cesaro. I don't understand why you would, take this guy Cesaro, who's, I don't care what anyone says, he's not over, never has been over. He does get a reaction when he does the swing, but aside from that, speaking of themes, I think I've mentioned this before. They've given him the most boring ass theme coming out, Cesaro. And I get it, it's one of those slower themes, and they wanted to make it big and epic, but it just is a low energy theme. Compared to what CFO wrote for him, I actually really do like that theme. That's one of CFO's better themes, but super low energy coming from the Cesaro entrance, and pair that up with him just not having any charisma or anything like that, and it's really just a bust. It truly isn't. I don't know why you would job Ridge Holland out in his debut here. I am not a big fan at all of people losing in their debut, because you're showing, like, you're debuting a wrestler here, and you're telling me, like, this guy deserves to be here, and then he's just losing right away. Why the hell should I even care about the guy? So it doesn't, like, make any sense, really. Like, you're putting him out there. Your main goal of any wrestler is to try to get that person over, but for some reason you decided to just job him out right then and there, and that doesn't make one lick of sense, especially when it's against a guy that really hasn't, been doing much. I mean, this is a guy that main evented against Roman Reigns at Backlash, and I said it. I said there was a reason why I didn't review that show. I said I'm not watching a main event where I know the result. There's no way that they're going to let Cesaro win that one. He's not, a viable competitor for a world title. He was shoehorned in there. And, sure enough, I was right again, because it's quite obvious this guy has been there. They put him on the main roster back in 2012. We're about to come upon the 10th year that Cesaro has been there on the main roster. And he hasn't done jack shit, really, when you think about it, in his whole encompassing career. I mean, the biggest thing that they've really had him do, when you kind of think about it, is the Battle Royal, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, the tag team with Sheamus, and now all of a sudden they're feuding again for no apparent reason. I don't know. I just was not really impressed at all at, like, how they handled this match. I mean, Ridge seemed like he did fine, but there wasn't enough here really to get me excited and invested in this guy. Like, like I'm saying, you've already shown me that the guy, is going to lose. And of course, why do you think he loses? To a fucking roll up. Why not? Why not? I mean, if you're gonna have a guy lose, why not have him lose to a roll-up, just like everyone else does on the roster? Drew McIntyre is backstage, and Pierce has this fucking habit, I've told you. Boo! Ooh. He always has his mouth open. Like, one day a fly is going to go in there. I swear to God, or, like, someone should throw a raisin in there or something. Like, the guy is like, it's just, he always has that little gap right there. It's Sonny Deville are both looking on at Drew McIntyre. He comes in, and he says that he wants to be in that battle royal to sign him up, and they said we'll see what's gonna happen. We'll see if we put you in there. And anyway, up next, you got Angel Garza defeating Boogs in a leftover takedown match. Like, I don't know where the hell they get these names. So, because SmackDown is no longer on Thursday, there's no possible way they could ever be on Thanksgiving again, which is something kind of, really lame to me. The Thanksgiving shows were always classics. They always, they had a knack for doing food fights, not like the Kevin Owens, pie in the face, little food fights that they used to do, those PG food fights. I mean, not like they were like adult food fights or anything, but they came across a little bit better, more entertaining, more funny, but we didn't really get that here. This was more about just having a spread. We had a table with old leftovers, and like, oh, the leftovers are a day old and they've been out. Like, okay, that's not really a stimulating gimmick there. Anyway, this match, like, it was going no place fast until we have Shinsuke kicking Humberto Carrillo's legs out from under him. He goes through the table. At first, I wasn't sure, like, how this match worked. I'm like, is this supposed to be, like, the first guy who goes through the table? Because the way how they were having the spot, like, he was trying to put Boog's head into the food on the table, it made me think it was, like, some sort of like a table match or something, like is the first person whose head gets shoved into the food. It was just like decoration, but the guy who's not even in the match ends up going through the table, whatever. Like, I even fucking care. Anyway, there's distraction on the outside. Boogs is distracted by this whole and then Angel manages to get his what's it called, the wing clipper in, and then gets the win, and that's the end of the match. And like, okay. I could care less. You know, the only thing that I enjoyed about this was Pat McAfee marking out on the table. And, you know, I'm going to tell you in a little bit more, like, if it wasn't for McAfee on commentary, like, I don't know. I think that's, like, the one of the main things that's keeping me watching this show. You know, keeping me from taking a break from this shit is because McAfee is just, he's got to be, like, one of the best commentators in years, as far as I'm concerned. He just has that fun nature about him. I really did like Mauro Ranallo, but, you know, he was more of like the straight man. This is more like a Taz sort of commentary, and I am a massive fan of Taz. I mean, no one can be a more fun commentator than classic Jerry the King Lawler from Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era, but sometimes Taz could be funnier than the King even, because the stuff that he would say was more over the top, things that the King wouldn't even think of saying. So, you know, with that in mind, like, McAfee kind of brings more of a new age, a more contemporary type of feel to him. And, you know, here's the other thing. I didn't even mention it because it's kind of just like a passing comment. But during the Roman promo, he actually said, like, are they chanting "Let's go Brandon"? And I kind of marked out for that. It was because he said, are they chanting "Let's go Brandon"? That one, like, whoa. You got to believe that McMahon is not in the guy's ear with comments like that. I mean, he is brilliant. I got to say, I can't put this guy over enough. You know, I love everything about him. And it's also because this guy is known for his crazy antics. So it kind of translates well to the, you know, goofballishness of the current product. We've got Charlotte coming out, and this has got to be one of the weirdest things, because listen to this. Charlotte makes her entrance. Then we get an ad for the battle. This is how it goes. Charlotte comes out. It's a commercial, right? Okay. This is how confusing it is, because I actually have to think about the steps. And I had it in my notes, but I didn't write down commercial. So Charlotte comes out. Then we get a commercial. Then we don't see Charlotte in the ring. And I actually second-guessed myself here. Now, I was watching the show live. I was streaming it live on Fox.com. And, you know, I'm seeing this point for point. We come back, and I swear that I questioned myself. I said, did Charlotte come out or did she not come out? Because they panned to a Battle Royal advertisement for tonight, the Black Friday Battle Royal, and I'm like, they didn't even show the ring, so I'm like, did she even come out? Or am I just having a false memory there of like just 3 minutes ago? I was like, maybe, because they played like a package beforehand, and I'm like, maybe I'm remembering that because they showed the cringy Lynn Charlotte stuff, and I'm like, yeah, maybe I'm just losing it here. But no, that wasn't the case, because then we go in the back, we get Kayla and Adam Pearce. Kayla runs up to Pearce like a little girl, and she goes, did you hear anything about the Brock Lesnar suspension? And Pearce says that he hasn't heard anything, and, you know, he says, but and she goes like, oh, you know, you remember what happened? And then he like looks off into the distance, and we get a video package, and I'm like, was that supposed to be going on in Pierce's head? Like, was it supposed to be like he's having a flashback? You know, all we needed was that classic like cartoon music, like do 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 do, or maybe like a thought bubble of some sorts. Like, I'm sorry, like I understand, and we see everything complete with music, like a full edited video package of Brock Lesnar attacking Adam Pearce, and I'm like, okay, I appreciate what they went for there, but oh come on, that was just cheesy as fuck right there. Then we have it going back to Pierce, and then he tells Kayla like, no, that's as far as I know. He says, but you don't know, anything could happen. Like, aren't you in charge around here? Like you just said like no, and then yes, and then go back to having another flashback scrap heap. Like, come on, like what kind of nonsense answer and nonsense segment that is. So keep in mind, we've been back here and we've been doing all this, and then Charlotte's in the ring. So you mean to tell me she's been waiting in the ring all that time? Man, these formats are just piss poor. So anyway, we've got Charlotte getting interviewed by Michael Cole. Out comes Toni Storm, and she goes, oh, I'm right here, Charlotte. Once again, it's shrimp on the Barbie. It's Crocodile Dundee. I mean, all right, I'm not going to be too mean. I know that's the way how she talks. Anyway, she wants a title shot. They get into a scuffle. Charlotte hits her with a pie. She stands there and she does nothing. And Charlotte starts walking away. And I knew that she wasn't going to do anything. I could kind of tell. But I'm like, she's coming back. I'm like, okay, she's going to try to do it again. And then Toni Storm is going to attack her. This time she does Doink the Clown style pie in the face. Like honestly, like Kevin Owens pie in the face. And she stands there covered in pie, doing absolutely nothing. Charlotte walks away. End of segment. You have just completely humiliated this girl. Got no payoff on it. Yeah, heel heat on Charlotte, great. But Toni Storm is just left there standing there looking like a total goof. I would say she looks like a clown, but I mean, Charlotte's the one hitting her with the pie, so that would kind of make her the clown. Okay. I don't understand. You've got Toni Storm, you've got this hot girl. She seems like she's talented in the ring, and, let's just hit her with a pie, guys. I mean, wow. We've seen this before. I mean, man, you just made your baby face look like a total worthless wimp. Congratulations, if that's what you were going for. Dear Lord, I mean, wow. You're not kidding. And we have Michael Cole saying, oh, she's humiliated. Well, yeah, I mean, she is. Sasha Banks is in the back, and we've got Sonya Deville back there as well. Sasha's talking about the controversy about her, not getting back in the ring in time. And, I kind of thought about that during the Survivor Series pay-per-view, the way she got back in the ring. Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be your full body is supposed to be in the ring, or her feet were outside. Okay, I'm analyzing this too much. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be like Dave Meltzer or anything like that, but it did kind of make me think what are the rules for a wrestling match, really, because they seem like they sometimes tweak it from time to time. Same thing about holding the ropes. At what point is a rope break supposed to take place? I don't know, but whatever. Sasha says to Sonya, what's your problem with Naomi? And I really don't get it. They're trying to make her a baby face, sort of, but there's not enough reason for us to get behind her as a baby face. She still has heel overtones, not even undertones, but overtones to her. She's still got that dislikable sneer. She's still what is the deal with her? I've mentioned it before, dancing during everything she says, I mean, it's seriously what is this? She's moving all over the place. It's ridiculous. It honestly looks like she's doing involuntary movements half the time. I don't get it. But anyway, we get a match. Sonya makes a match. It's going to be Naomi and Sasha versus Shayna Baszler and Natalya. And of course, this is how we have to go about it. Naomi comes out. It's time to go to a commercial. Xyla Lee gets her Aleister Black style little vignette. And, these are really cool animated vignettes, but I'm just saying, like, the last person who had these vignettes didn't last long. And, it's just kind of weird. Like, they went back to the same style. Like, the same thing about, like, the family and growing up. It's the same thing, just, like, instead of it being, like, Illuminati-style stuff, it's just kind of a little bit more basic, like, growing up. She talks about her brother getting picked on and, and fighting back against a bully. So it's like, different stories, but the same thing in the same art style. I'm just saying it's cool, but, like, we've already done this, and it's comedic because it was just a few months ago for a different character. Okay, so then after that, we've got Naomi out there, Shayna Baszler, and Natalya. So then Sasha makes her entrance. So not only have they been in the ring all that time, but we've got Sasha Banks coming out after the opponents have been announced and Naomi's already been in there. Like, isn't that like the weirdest transition that you've ever seen in your life? Like, the Charlotte one was weird enough, but like, how did we do that there? I've never seen that before, where you announce, one person on one tag team, then the other team comes out, and then the member from the first team that came out first, then they come out. Like, what is with this formatting? There's so much with, like, they want to do. I get it. I'm all for variety, but you have to format a show where it makes sense. Where you could, because this is like super confusing. They're supposed to be on the same team, but they're not coming out one after the other. And I understand, like, sometimes it's good to break convention. You want to do different things, but I'm sorry, this is a little too different to the point where it's nonsensical. So we have this match, and it's not a bad match, but it's going on forever. Like, honestly, like, based on the matches that Naomi has had, the one thing that was keeping this going was, well, it was kind of like a 50-50 performance. We had Sonya Deville and Pat McAfee arguing, like, back and forth, and, like, McAfee was getting some good lines, but man, Sonya Deville, it is like paint drying with her. Like, can this girl find a personality? I don't understand how you give her an authority figure role and she has no personality whatsoever. Anyway, we get Naomi getting the win. Sonya pretends like she's happy for them. And then we move on. Drew McIntyre looks at a list backstage for the Black Friday Battle Royal. He's informed that he's not even on the list. Sheamus tells him he's not on there. He doesn't even bother to look at the list, which is kind of weird, but I guess he trusts Sheamus's word, and that's good enough. We move on. We get a Raw recap with, like, what the fuck was even going on this? Like, I watched the egg stuff on YouTube because I couldn't resist. Find my egg. To me, that was way better than anything I saw on SmackDown, to be quite honest. The egg videos were just funny to me. McMahon in like the lowest possible voice, getting angry at, old Hatchet Face and Scrap Heap Adam Pearce. That was just like money right there. Maybe not, no one's gonna watch it, but for me personally, like, it being funny because it's so stupid, that was what I was getting out of it. So it ended up being that Austin Theory was the one that took the egg because he wanted to take a selfie with it. And for whatever reason, he was like too scared to bring it back, but now he is going to bring it back. And okay, like, that was probably the most roundabout story ever. So he gets a title match with Big E for bringing back the egg. And there's like, I don't get it. Like, Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins are supposed to be heels, and they're like, there's some interference, and like, I'm like, what are we even doing here? Like, there was some shenanigans on the outside, and then Biggie ends up pretending like what was that even supposed to be? That was like really like the most confusing, like there's a heel here and a heel there, three heels and a face, and like they're trying to have a rivalry with like Rollins and Owens, and I think it's supposed to be like a triple threat between those guys, and it's just like, it's really confusing because you had like a heel turn, and it seems like Owens is healing on Rollins. Like, okay, like I didn't really understand what was going on there. It's the same thing like in Survivor Series, like Owens is walking out on Rollins. Rollins is getting upset, but he's a heel too, and like, okay, I don't get like healing on the heels. It doesn't. There's nothing there. Then we move on to the Black Friday Battle Royal, and this is like, it's all right. There's nothing in this Battle Royal. There was nothing in it to really like get anyone into it. Before it starts, we've got fucking Drew McIntyre coming out swinging the sword at people. I think we've seen him like come towards somebody with the sword, but I've never actually seen him swing it. He's mad because he's not in the Battle Royal. I'm like, oh shit. So he's gonna like fucking decapitate people? I was laughing hysterically at this. I was like, what the fuck is he doing? I talked about this, about him with the sword and the whole thing with like Jinder Mahal. Did he swing the sword that time at like Shanky and Veer? When they were having their rivalry, I seem to remember that, but perhaps I could be wrong. So Adam Pearce comes out, he restores order, then the Battle Royal starts up, and like, yeah, it's Battle Royal, like, okay, it's nothing really too exciting here, but then we get down to the final three, and we all saw that Sami Zayn got thrown through the middle rope, and that he's still in it, and he's on the outside. And like, of course, Michael Cole does this classic thing that they've been doing for like a few years now. When they do this old trope, they say three even though there's four, and they always pretend like they don't see the guy laying on the outside right in front of them. That always like annoys me to no end. Like, okay, we all know that you could see him, because us, the viewer, we remember that he was out there. And you've done this quite a few times already. You've done it. Now, remember when Stone Cold did this to Bret Hart? They still acknowledged that Stone Cold was on the outside in the Royal Rumble. Remember that? Like, you didn't have to insult people's intelligence and say like, oh, where is he? I don't see him. Like, come on. He's right there in front of you. You see that he's there. But anyway, we get Jeff Hardy, and I'm like, all right, like, this is going to be good. But I already knew where it was going. So, yes, sure enough, he gets up on the top rope, starts celebrating. Jeff Hardy, yeah, what a main event this is going to be. Roman Reigns versus Jeff Hardy. Now, I've been saying this, right, for months. I'm like, why not have these two guys go at it? You can have a pretty good feud with these guys. You're going to get a good match out of them. But, anyway, Sami Zayn comes out from behind, pushes Jeff Hardy out. And I will admit that's a good way of getting heat. They've done it before, but sometimes it's been like a failed attempt. They did that during like one of the Royal Rumbles. I think with like Santino, they did that one time, if I'm not mistaken. But whatever the case may be, yeah. Now Sami Zayn is going to be getting the title shot. Kayla comes in to interview him, and then she gets news on her earpiece. I've got Adam Pearce on the mind. Brock Lesnar's suspension has been officially lifted, so I guess, Paul Heyman is not going to have to get her fired, however he's planning on doing that. And Sami Zayn seems like he's seen a ghost. So, And then they cut to Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman reacting backstage. Okay, so we already know how this is going to go. Sami Zayn is going to get destroyed from Brock Lesnar, and, he's pretty much going to be an afterthought of this. I don't know. I just think it would have been better off to just have Roman Reigns and Jeff Hardy. That would have been a fresh match. It looks like, Jeff Hardy... look at him in this battle royal. Like when it got down to the end, like this guy is 44 years old. He's still moving around great, better than 75% of the roster. I would say he's more over than 75% of the roster. I don't understand why we're relegating him to these roles right here. You're not gonna do anything with Sami Zayn. So I don't even know why we're bothering it. No, it is a good heel spot. It is a good way of getting heat on Sami Zayn. But we've been doing this for a while now. Get heat on Zayn, and then it ends up leading nowhere. And that's going to be much of the same thing, apparently, what we're going to see. We're going to see, it's going to be Zayn. No one wants him in this spot. But then he's going to get beat up. And, yeah, we're going to just move on from that point. And it's going to be more of Sami Zayn acting like a jackass for the coming weeks. And, we're going to forget about this Battle Royal even happening. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my patrons for your continued support. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.